welcome back. You are still tuned in to Funtastic Fridays. And you know that we're here with you every Friday, and all the Friday them win a name Friday. Don't ask me no question because I don't have the answer to that. From 5 p.m. till 8 p.m. And from you hear that sound, you know what time it is. It is time to talk the Ting with Kim. And this week we're gonna have the final round of our topic, toxic parenting. And this one, I have to thank Sean once again, our listener, for suggesting this one, because I never really even thought about it much. I mean, we knew that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the homes in Jamaica and the communities and all that. So we knew that, but we never really thought into it too deeply. So until having to research this topic, I realized, boy, there is a whole heap of work to be done. Yeah. When I say a whole heap, it's like a whole heap of work to be done. But the important thing is that when we learn these things, we now have an opportunity to do better. Right? Might not fix overnight, but if we start implementing some little changes and some efforts now, at least the future will be able to benefit from it. All right. So for our round 3 conversation, I've been promising you guys that we're gonna get an expert to assist us to unpack this topic, right? Because doing research is one thing, but speaking to someone who deals with it regularly on a daily basis, has a vast amount of experience, I always think that that's the wealth of knowledge. Google can't do all of that. I'm sorry, not bashing your Google, right? But it's always best to speak to someone who has experience, because there's things that you don't even think about that they can bring to your attention. So without further ado, I want to welcome, I don't want to see like an extra bright light in studio. You know, I'm just saying, it's not no extra bulb we have in here. A particular presence entered the studio, and she's sitting right beside me. So we have Mrs. Joy Pedley-Rochester, and she is a clinical social worker employed as a children's officer at the Child Protection and Family Services Agency. So I would like you to just say good evening. You know, welcome to Funtastic Fridays. Listen, the Funtastic family is happy to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. So good evening to the listening audience. Good evening to those of us in studio.
Yes. All right. And I have to say thank you for making the journey, because listen guys, when we have guests that come in 7 p.m. on a Friday, right? I would know it's a big ask, but we love that they make the time and the effort to be here, because the Funtastic family, they're always looking to learn. I love the guys, especially that come and tune in at 7, because I know that then come in for some information.
And what's actually realized, we get the persons going home in the traffic.
Yeah.
We probably wait out a little bit of the early traffic, say, all right, let me cruise home now. Listening in their vehicles, those who just made it home, turn on the radio, or those of who are chilling on their phone or listening via the apps. Yeah, man, thank you guys very much for tuning in.
Yeah.
We're here for you.
All right, so I see that Samson Maurice joined the conversation already, and him said, my thing is that too much kids are having kids, and that is something that is frequently said in society, and I feel like it's a part of, we're going to start with that. I know that was not our question, but I thought that's a perfect place to start. What do you think?
I think we should first just ask her to give us an idea of, what we would call a children's officer. What
oh, yes, I like that.
Okay.
Yes.
So, a children's officer, what we do intervention. With children. So we are the face of the CPFSA.
Right.
That we do interview, we have intake.
Yeah.
And we do interviews, and from the interviews we will decide what type of intervention this client need.
Yes.
Right. And so we would send this, after the intake, we will send this information to the investigating department. And you have children's officer also working in the investigation department, and they do the investigation on the ground. And then after the investigation, then we decide, do we refer these persons to our partner agencies, or do we do the intervention ourselves? So we do a comprehensive type of work with our children. Yeah.
Well, that's a perfect place to start. I have to say that, because we hear children's office that we really know.
Persons are going to ask us, so I make sure I ask you. So,
so we have the answers.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that.
All right, so I wanted to, and I know it's a segue from what we had planned to discuss, but I thought that this was actually very important because it's something we hear all around Jamaican society, right? That kids, too many kids are having kids, right? Would you say that there is, in your experience, some truth to this? What is your perspective on that based on what you see every day?
Yes, there is some truth to it, and there are multiple reasons. Right, because we're in a society where children are now highly sexualized.
Yeah, that's true.
And so they explore. Sometimes it happens in the home. Some children are forced to get into sexual relationship, and some of them do it voluntarily, following their friends. And at that stage of their lives, they are emotional driven. Yeah, they are not cognitive thinkers, and so they go after what they feel. So a lot of times they are not even thinking protection because they are thinking on the moment, and that's where some of them end up getting pregnant. Yeah, even in school, because they are more acting from the emotional aspect as against thinking through that, making the necessary preparation, or thinking that I should not be doing this at this stage. I'm not ready for this. So the part of the brain that they are driven by is the emotional aspect that cause them to take on risky behavior and cause them to act how they feel, and out of this, some of them end up getting pregnant.
And then we believe then, so based on that explanation, that leads to this topic of toxic parenting as well, because as a child, you don't really know much better.
A lot of them really don't have, and I'm not going to say all of them, because some of them do have the kind of guidance that in the form of their parents or guardian, but a lot of them really don't have that, because in today's society we have a lot of single parents where mothers are gone to work and children are left to take care of themselves. You have a lot of latchkey children. They go to school and they come back on their own, and they have all this time on their hands. Sometimes it's a neighbor, sometimes it's a schoolmate, sometimes it's a total stranger, just observing and noticing that this particular child have so much time on their hand.
All right, I love that we touched on that. Maurice Sampson said, if you cannot do anything legal or vote until you're 18, but you can have sex at age 16 legally, that is very controversial, right? I think that is an important point to note, something that is highly debatable, right? All right, well, we're going to get now into the direction that I want to take the conversation in, right? One of the things I mentioned in one of our previous shows was that you also have parents that want to control everything. They don't really give their children privacy and all of that. And I know, even without you guys saying it, it might immediately persons are like, what do you mean by privacy? My child needs privacy, what do you mean, And I thought this question ties into that, to expound further on that. So let's get into it. How can someone differentiate between strict parenting and toxic parenting?
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so I would bring it to firm parenting. It would be one of the same. But parenting, when I look at the topic of toxic parenting, and I realize there is nothing new about it. Yeah, because toxic parenting was already form a part of our different parenting styles, right? So we have been looking at 4 different types of parenting style, and in them you will find toxic parenting, and then you will find firm parenting. So 3 of them, you will have the authoritarian parenting, and I will break them down as I go along. The authoritarian, you'll have the neglect, you'll have the permissive, and you'll have the authoritative. So the first 3 falls in line with the toxic parenting. The third one is a more balanced type of parenting. a more healthy type of parenting. So then I will go ahead and break them down. All right, and feel free to ask questions as I go along.
Yes.
All right, so the authoritarian parenting, include high parental demand. It's low in affection, low in communication, and yet it demands a lot from the child. It's very abusive, verbally abusive, physically abusive. It's either my way or no other way. It's full of criticism. Instead of firmly correcting, it criticizes not just the behavior, it criticizes the child. It diminishes the child's self-esteem. It's a one-side communication. So that is the authoritarian kind of parenting.
Well, to not to interrupt, but when I was listening to that, to be honest, I feel like I could be wrong. That is the dominant parenting style, maybe in Jamaica. That's my opinion. One off, right? Because I see a lot of parents, it's one-sided. It's my way or the highway. Don't you dare respond to, don't have a response to anything I have to say if I'm correcting you or reprimanding you. That's also what I was getting from that. So you said this is one of the dominant ones.
One of the dominant.
Okay.
The other one is the neglectful or uninvolved parenting style. And this one refers to a neglectful parent. They don't ask the child or the children about schoolwork. They don't monitor the child's day-to-day behavior. They don't spend time with the child. They don't address the child's emotional needs. And this comes out of a neglectful parents as well as a parents with a disability or mental disorder. So so the parent with mental disorder, then they don't necessarily know that they are doing this, right? Or the ones with disability, you will understand that.
Yeah.
But there are parents who they this is just their style.
They're willingly doing it.
They willingly do this thing. But yes, so so these children in this kind of fashion normally will have low self-esteem. They don't feel good about themselves, or a lot of them are delinquent. They don't go to school, because they don't have the kind of supervision that they need, to keep them on track. So that's the neglect or the uninvolved parenting, right? These children are normally too molested. These are some of the children that we see on the road, wiping windscreen, begging, because there is no supervision at home, and so they are left to do what they want to do. They are living adult life, even as a child.
That one's deep.
So the other one is the permissive parenting style. The permissive parenting style is the one where the mother or the parent, they are there, but they want to make the child happy. So they don't correct the child. They are willing to buy the brand names, all the brand names and shoes and clothes. They are overly protective of the child. They allow the child to do what they want, to go to parties or to stay up late. And in the morning, the child has to go to school. And then they will even go to school and make excuse to teacher why the child is late. They will even lie for the child, but while they are the ones who contribute to the child's behavior. It's because they just want to make this child happy. And so they have not differentiated the parenting from the child's role.
So I think we call these ones the parents were trying to be like
the cool parents, the cool ones.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
My child is my best friend.
Right. Right.
Don't. If the teacher asks you where you're there, just make me tell her.
Yes.
I know it's the child not up to no good.
They are the one who go to school and fight teacher and quarrel with teacher. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
All right, so these 3 parenting styles would form in the toxic areas. All right. So the third one now, the fourth style is the authoritative parenting style, and it provides a nurturing and a warm environment for the child. You know, it provides rules and regulation. It provides border for the child. It encourages the child's independence. It encourages the child to have a voice, to express their opinion, while being willing to object, you know, but still allowing the child to know that I have a voice. It emphasizes on mental health. You know, this parenting creates emotionally safe environment for the child. It models healthy boundaries, encourages self-reliance with the child, and it's flexible. There's a balance in the relationship. All right. So this is the authoritative, and this is the ideal parenting style. But the thing is, sometimes it's good to be eclectic. Yeah. So sometimes we draw a little from all the areas. But all parents. What all parents do, but then at least we will have a dominant style. What is your dominant style? Getting on a regular basis. What is your default system in parenting?
So authoritative, and that's different from the authoritarian. Right. Okay, I like that. So I never even thought that deeply into parenting styles. So I'm happy that you wrote that down. Out of those 3 for the toxic ones, which one would you say is probably the most dominant based on what you experienced?
Probably it's the authoritarian, and then we would understand too that parent did not just get up and be permissive or authoritarian or laissez-faire. You know, parenting style was born out of an environment. You know, and a lot of our parents remember our dynamics as Jamaican. We come way back with a lot of violence and pain. All of us came out of some kind of trauma, some hurt, you know, all of us. And so how did we resolve these issues? What caused us to behave how we do? You know, so scientists would look at some things that they call ACEs. And these are adverse child experiences. All right, so these reflect incidents that children were exposed to, right? And so these children become adults. So if these traumatic experiences were not handled, it evolved into the behavior of toxic adults. All right. So studies have shown that the ACEs, so there are 10 questions that you ask to decide about the ACEs. All right. The 10 questions they ask about your social experience, your environment, your personal experience. And when we look at these questions, we realize that most of us, and I'm going to ask three of them. So we realize that most of us have had this experience. Did you experience violence of any kind in your home before you were 18? Did a parent or any other adult in the household often or very often swear at you, insult you, put you down, humiliate you? Would that be yes or no? And as we listen, then we realize that most of us came out of that environment.
I was just about to say, those questions you're asking, I'm looking at it like, that's gonna be yes.
Yes, you understand?
We've gone through this and we don't see it as easy until you put it like this. Wow.
Yes. And so as a result of these experiences, we realize that a lot of us experience trauma at some point. But what did we do with that trauma?
About it, yeah.
What happened during that time? Because when the brain experiences trauma, what the brain does, it overly compensates. Yeah. So what you do is the brain, there's a chemical that you call cortisol.
Yeah.
And the cortisol is there to regulate our system, to help us to be calm. And so if a lion runs through the door right now, without thinking, we are going to run. We're not going to think, should we run? No, we're going to run. So what it does,
let's have a meeting first.
The voluntary system takes over.
Yeah.
And this is what happened. At the back of the brain, you have what you call the amygdala. Right. The amygdala is deal with crisis, fight, flight, or freeze. So on the spot, when that is triggered, it closes down the other parts of the brain, the frontal lobe, the executive functions, that reason. And so it reacts immediately. There's no thinking going on. And that's why a lot of time when we go through trauma, we don't remember a lot of things because it closes down. It's
everything
like
else.
Just shut you down and get into action. And a lot of parents, a lot of children, the trauma we experience take us through that. But what really happened with trauma is that long after you have moved on, you still have that lion jumping through the door, even when there's no lion. And so the brain is overcompensating. It's producing cortisol. What the cortisol does is when it has, after it has done its work, we have excess. And what it begins to do is to destroy the other neurons, your good neurons, the one that regulates the heart, the lungs. And that is why a lot of parents, adults, ends up with lifestyle diseases. Persons who experience trauma, multiple trauma, they end up with lifestyle diseases. They end up fixated with aggression, anger and aggression, insecurity. A lot of these toxic behaviors that we talk about, anger, we end up, because our brain is at a fixated point. It has not moved on. But not because the brain has not moved on, don't mean that we are going to stay there. The brain has now begun to compensate for these behavior because we have to function. And we may look well, but deep down, the brain has been restructured. So we are not functioning as we should normally because the frontal lobe is now destroyed. The overly production of the cortisol has destroyed some neurons that do not allow you to think critically, right? Because and so you are acting on what you have. This is how you know how to function. You know how to be scared. You respond to fear immediately instead of reason. Do I have reason to fear? No. You just constantly respond. And this is what we have, and this is what we project onto our children because we don't even know that this is how we are functioning. Wow. And the thing too is that the thing at the back of the brain that deals with emotion, from we were born, that is active and alive. We respond, we touch, we have no fear because what happened? The frontal lobe develops over a period of up to we were 24, continues to develop, while the thing at the back, the amygdala, that is fully developed, the emotion, fully developed.
So that's fully functional from early. And so the frontal lobe that develops over a period of 24 years. And when this gets into problem and it damages the neuron, it will become fixated because it damages the neuron that should be developing the frontal lobe. And so we are stuck in a crisis mode. And so we have a lot of crisis parenting based on what we were exposed to as children. And so we have to function. This is what we have.
So they basically come up with a way to go through.
We have to blindside
Survival mode type of thing.
survival.
No man, hold on.
Fix those damage.
Well, we're gonna discuss it when we come back from the break. No, guys, let me tell you, I bargained for one thing, and I get a whole lot more than I asked because I never even thought about the scientific part of the trauma. You know, we've had a whole discussion about trauma in the past. Listen, guys, we have a whole lot more in store for you after the break, alright?